So hello. And today we will be discussing the double or nothing super turbos on 888 poker. I have registered to a few of the games and I thought that we can discuss a bit about the structure. As you can see, we are starting with 500 chips and blinds are increasing every 3 minutes. And in these super turbo double or nothings, there are antes in the game, so there will be a lot of chips in every pot and stealing becomes really important early on. And as we can see also in here that it's $22 game and we are having $1 of rake, so the rake is less than 5% and I think it's a really good value. So these games are really nice. And as you can see that all of the people that are getting in the money are getting equal shares. So it doesn't matter if you get there with 0 chips. You can get there if it's a 3-way all-in and you lose, but you are having a larger stack than the smallest stack that loses. Or if you are getting all the chips, you are getting equal money anyway, so it's only important to survive. And when survival is the only matter, we should only look at how we will survive to not be eliminated as the first 4. And sometimes it requires a bit counterintuitive thinking. Like sometimes it requires that we are aggressive and accumulate chips so that we can't be eliminated. But sometimes it also requires that we, for example, in these super turbos, it might be that you need to fold aces, and those situations will come. That even though you are dealt the best hand pre-flop, depending on your situation, it might be impossible for you to call. Like if we are on the bubble and we are having something like 1200 chips and almost 2000 chip stack shoves, we need to fold aces and it's not even close, so it will be, there should be some really interesting spots that are also hard spots for many of the players that are used to different sit and go structures. Like if you are comparing these double or nothings to 50-50s, these are more about playing just to survive. Like 50-50s, they're a half of a game to play to survive, and half of the game is playing to accumulate chips. But here it doesn't matter. The chip stack doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is survival. And Yulos Pro says that Sunday evening and no games running in few minutes. Seems like traffic isn't so great. There is some problem with the traffic, and also I wanted to take it easy at the beginning so that I'll have enough time to explain the structure before we are having a lot of tables going on. So these are running pretty well on the lower stakes, and the lowest games that you can play are 72-cent games. And the highest games that are available are $43 games. So I think that there are, and I think that the games are interesting in a way that there aren't that many regs. There is a reason for that as well. Like if it's hard to reg just in these games if they aren't running, so there are 2 points that it's interesting to play these games because the games are always good, but it is hard sometimes to get games going. And we did do a session in Finnish, I think on Thursday, and on Thursday we got something like 8 games going on the most, so we got a good session there, and also that's pretty much the reason we are doing this session in English as well, because the Finnish session, I think it was really good. So we'll hope to see some of the interesting situations in these games, and if I would wanted to open the lower stakes game, I think that we could have gotten a lot more games open. Of course, if you are thinking what the games that are running the highest on 888 Poker are, actually they are your specialty. Actually, the games are your specialty. The heads up sit and goes are running pretty high on 888 Poker. And Snodikin, can you make the HUD a bit larger? I can try in a few moments. In here, then Nemezorov has been really aggressive, and there is one caller, and I think the caller is going to be pretty much dead money always. So, and when he raises almost 3x, it makes it a really good spot for us to steal for a bigger stack. And in here we can see in the $7 game that I don't think that in these games it makes a lot of sense to do anything else than min raise as standard for the first 2 levels. And there are people that will be shoving through the first levels, and I think they are losing a lot of value in there. And Snodikin, you can also try to use the 180p version, and I'll try to increase my HUD size a bit. And now I'm in a hurry because I tried to increase the HUD size, and another table opened immediately, so sometimes things aren't as easy as they should be. And in here, 10s are going to be way too strong, even though we are not going to get this pot uncontested anyway, because there is one player already all in, but 10s are going to be strong enough to be shoving for sure. I tried to increase some of the... and I increased in the wrong place, so I increased my cash HUD size, so... way to go, me, way to go. Let's try if I'm getting the... if I'm doing the... and in here, when there are 3 limpers before me, even ace-10 gets to be a raise. In here we are not going to call with ace-high. I think we should have bet the flop if we did open that one, for sure. And in here 90 chips is going to be a call. Let's try increasing the font size in a few spots and let's see if that's going to be enough. In here, this is a really hard spot. Because it's going to be all about survival, and when it's going to be all about survival and this guy here is going to be calling us a lot and he's going to have a bit larger stack than we do, and it's almost bubble and we are going to have a stack that we are going to get in the money often, so it means that we are not going to shove it even though the fives are going to be a solid hand. And maybe try it on a break. There's going to be no breaks today, so we are going full speed, no breaks included. But this is something that I have noticed already, like in the scaling in Poker Tracker 4 is different in PokerStars and 888 Poker. Even though the windows are about the same size, the HUD size is way smaller in 888 Poker. So I added the next row. It will probably restart in a few tables. In here, because we are having the large stack on the big blind and he's going to be not that aggressive, we are going to min raise the queen jack suited. There's now the second row and now there is only one row left. And sorry, it's just not easy to speak right now when I'm trying to fix the HUD stats and everything, but there will be a lot of talk about these games and how people are playing, because during the Finnish coaching, even in $43 games, we saw some amazing hands. Like hands that should never happen in a $5 game, and we saw a lot of them happening. And with jacks we are going to be, when there is one limper, there's going to be a decent sized pot to win already, and we don't want this Stimano to be just flat calling us if we are raising small. And unfortunately, I don't think that if there is an easy way to scale the stats in Poker Tracker 4, I'd appreciate it, but I'm already done it with. And I should have applied it, so we'll see when the HUD reappears. Let's see how many chips does this Schmish have. And this is actually a stupid situation that this Svondrak shouldn't get into. And we need to apparently open lobby to see how many chips this guy has. But when Schmish is having over 1000 chips, actually that could have been a call. I thought that he was just sitting out from the beginning, so almost sitting out right now. And now the HUD profile editor just... There is a nice wheel scrolling around, so... I think we have frozen our... And this was just a raise fold hand against this mission. It's nasty when this Vaginator did shove, and usually with such a short stack we are not going to be raise folding. That was a special case of a special case, so when there's a sitting out and everything we are... Okay, Poker Tracker is not responding, so we need to kill it and restart it. And even though Poker Tracker is not responding, we are still having HUD stats on one table, which makes me scratch my head some, but things happen. Let's put it this way. Things happen. And we'll see if our HUD is now big. It's completely big. Okay, Snodikins, in the HUD profiles you can select all the different stats from your HUD with the control button or shift button. Okay, that's a good tip. That's actually a really good tip. In the top left, it's a really weird situation because we are so short in the game and there is still 6 players remaining. And I think that we will be, against a fishy player, we will be getting the pot more often than not by donk betting here. And it's also something that I wouldn't do normally against a reg, but I think in this kind of situation when the player has been limping a lot and he's likely just looking at his own cards in a situation like that, I'm thinking that it's going to be a good spot to be. And we need to treat this, because we weren't there from the start of the game, we need to use the treat as option to. In here we got called by Goldnick and we lost the pot when Goldnick called with Queen Jack. It's a decent call, so I don't blame him. This is actually something that I could have also shoved because the Vaginator is going to be the shortest stack. So it doesn't matter that much, and the Shmish is still the second largest stack, and for me, when I'm going to be the largest stack, if this would be a 50-50, I'm going to be shoving a lot in that spot. I'm going to be increasing my stack, increasing the value of my stack, but in double or nothings, it doesn't matter what kind of stack you have when you get in the money. It only matters you are getting to the money. So the money is the only thing that matters, and that's what we are aiming for. And in here we are getting into a hard spot pretty much because we are having such a short stack. But it's going to be good. I think we got a better hand that we can think about, and we are under the gun, so we are pretty inclined to be shoving here. And there are just 2 players, so if we are winning this hand, we are most likely going to get in the money in this, because there is going to be 3 players that are going to be really short stacked if we win this. And unfortunately, we didn't win that one. But no worries, we'll get the next one. And that's a good tip from Snodikin again, that with the pop-up settings you can use the Control and Shift for selecting, for example, transparent background to true or false. I'm usually using my HUDs with no transparent background. And why this is that it's going to be more calculations for the computer to be doing when the background is going to be transparent, and at least with Holder Manager 2 it increased the speed that the HUD worked on when transparencies are off. So that's something that and in here we are going to be calculating this a lot. It's going to be just 20 chips, but there is a possibility that Riddick isn't going to be calculating correctly when the blinds hit him. Actually, now it doesn't matter because 9s are going to be too good of a hand. And now we just hope that Goldnick is going to be misplaying his hand slightly by not calling this one. And of course it doesn't matter because it's going to be really close for his equities anyway. If he calls or if he doesn't. And we didn't get it. But it was close, it was close. And this is something that you need to do with 888 poker sometimes, that you sometimes need to tell the software what the tables are about, so it knows where to put the HUD stats. Sometimes it works, so sometimes it detects the 8 maxes correctly and sometimes it fails. And always when you are changing your HUD stat sizes and everything, usually you need to move the markings a bit around to that. Even now I'm wondering, is this going to be the best, and I'm still a bit unconvinced, so I'm going to start moving a bit. That can I move the HUD stats to be even better for me, that I'm going to see who is going to be in the hand, because it's really important to see all the players that are in the hand. And I'm experimenting still a bit on what's the best way in different sized tables to put the HUDs. And we are getting 10s, and it's going to be an interesting hand, I think. We are going to be raise calling pretty much. And when I'm saying pretty much, it means almost always, except if there's going to be a 5-way all-in behind us. And that can happen. Actually, if there's going to be a 5-way all-in, it's going to be pretty close to do whatever. And here in a 3-way pot, when we are out of position, we are not going to be... I think that we are going to have the best hand pretty often. Often even with the 6 hitting, because it's quite unlikely that our opponents would have a 6 here. And also I think jacks are going to be pretty unlikely after the flop check, and the king is one of the worst cards in the deck for us. And our opponent called a bet with 3s. That's interesting. And when I said that usually it doesn't make sense to more than min raise in these super turbos with only 500 chip starting stacks, when we are having limpers ahead of us, it makes sense to raise more. Usually with one BB more per limper is appropriate. And Snodikin, that's interesting that you are taking breaks from playing poker every year. And Snodikin, yeah, threes, it didn't make a lot of sense for me either. Of course, now that I have seen the cards, it makes sense that he doesn't want to bet, but why he doesn't want to shove it pre-flop, or why does he want to call it on the flop, that completely escapes my grasp on. This 8-10 suited, it's going to be quite close in should I want to shove it. And Kuba asks, is there turbo dons on 888 poker? Yes, there are, and there are also nines are going to be close. I think the Katrina, when she's probably going to be, she's a bit reggier that she's not going to be calling UTG +1 raise with a really crappy hand in a double or nothing. So I'm going to be folding nines even when this Fata guy is going to be pretty... Telis guy is going to be pretty wild card, let's say it this way. And if I'm looking at the other double or nothings that are running, there is not a lot of other double or nothings except these super turbos running at the higher stakes. The lower the stakes go, the more different games are running. For example, at $2.75 there are going to be Omaha high-low turbo double or nothings. So there will be even more interesting games, but it's always what runs, and it's pretty much the situation in every site except PokerStars that you'll need to check that what runs and what doesn't. With the weak top pair, and especially when we check to her, we are going to be calling, and we are going to call down pretty often, and I'm thinking that I'm giving her an opportunity to be bluffing here, even though he checks the turn behind. And now I know that I could have gotten from her that hand, I probably could have gotten a small value bet out. But not more than a small value bet, and this is going to be close because I don't think that we are having that much fold equity on Katrina with only 3 BBs. Actually, it's probably a shove. It's probably a shove anyways. And this is going to be also a bit interesting. Nines is going to be too good-handed to fold, even though we are second in stack and there is the biggest stack is already all in. And we are almost in the bubble because this Bay Bar is going to be going out of this game pretty soon. And Eulos Pro, could you describe the situation again? Because it's a while ago and it always it's always easier to come back to the situation if you describe it a bit more. In this spot I was to be shoving, but I misclicked I thought I'm clicking the max button, but then I misclicked a bit, so I was going to be shoving this ace-3, and this ace-queen isn't a misclick, because I'm having larger stack than almost all the other players. I'm going to be min-raising some of the strong hands to eliminate some of the players, but I don't want to be shoving with this big stack opponent in here, and he's actually making my life pretty miserable with his 2 re-raises, and this is something that's pretty horrible. If I fold, I'm going to, and I think that I'm going to have 2 overcards and a flush draw, and I think they're both going to be alive, and he should be folding a lot. And when he min 3 bets and shows queens after that, that's something that's definitely noteworthy. And this is because that's going to be something that we can make money out of when we know that this player is going to be min-raising in Don Bubble the strongest hand, so and as Julas Pro said, that you shouldn't concentrate too much on how you could have gotten value from ace-10 off, but to the fact that he played the hand horribly. Yeah, but that's one of the points, that even though if I'm getting value from ace-10 off, it's not an optimal play against his whole range, because there are so many open-enders and so many other hands that are not going to be calling a river bet, but are going to be can be bluffing. So even though the opponent is having one of the hands that I'm going to get value against, that shouldn't matter, because I should always play against ranges and not against single hands. And that was my point, but I probably got distracted somewhere along the way. So, and actually here, when there are 2 players with short stacks, it's going to be a mistake to be shoving against a fishy big stack, and this is something that I'm burning money on and shouldn't be doing. Actually, when this is 22, I think it's more interesting than $12 game, so I'll move it out of the way. So there is the next win. It's always nice to be shipping some of these super turbos. In here, when Smith Zero, this SAS guy should have been limping most of his range there. Like, min-raising ace-king suited is going to be worse value than calling and letting me call or letting me check this other guy out. And in here I'm also giving an opportunity for the other opponent to be eliminating the player there. Yeah, that's also true that riverbet gets better if my opponent is going to be betting the flop with ace 10, so against this guy it might make sense, but I can't be thinking about that my opponent is going to be betting hands like ace 10 off, so that's pretty much the point I'm trying to make, and probably I'm still butchering my point and not making it clear enough. In here 10-9 suited is going to be good enough to complete, because we pretty much know that where we are going to be after the flop, and when it's going to be 5-way, we are going to be hitting some nice flops and getting some nice value out of that hand when we hit. But when we don't hit, it's also really easy to be just folding it. Under the gun limper, we are having bottom pair and he bets a lot, so it's going to be an easy fold for us. And You Lost Bro has a story about playing David Kitai heads up. And that could be interesting to hear. In a heads up pot, I'm going to be c-betting this in position. And in the bubble, we are going to be calling, because if we are not calling, we are going to be pretty much the shortest stack, and we are having okayish equity against an under the gun push, because under the gun should be pushing pretty widely there, because he shouldn't expect fold equity against me that much, but there is always a chance, and if he gets folds there, he's going to be fourth in chips. And always, if you are looking at this small traffic light here, if it turns yellow, you are sitting out somewhere. And it's something that you should take notice in the games in 888 Poker and in Poker Stars. It's a different note, but it's really important to note that when you are sitting out somewhere, because sitting out means that you are pretty much losing money. And Belgian players are always doing strange things heads up. I'm thinking that in general, if a MTT player is playing heads up games, he's probably going to be better than the average MTT player, because I think average MTT players are pretty bad in heads up, pretty much due to the fact that they don't get that much heads up practice when they're playing their main games. And when a MTT player, for example, if you are playing MTTs on Poker Stars, you are getting the heads up like, if you are not playing the MTT sit and goes, even the MTT sit and goes, you are pretty much getting the heads up something like once every 75 games. So if you are not playing huge volume, it might take you a few days before you are heads up again. So, and even if you suck at heads up, it's not going to be biting you that much than in some other formats. And Snodikin, I don't think it's a problem if you have gotten heads up already. It's not a problem to play for the win. But if you are always playing for the win, you are doing some horrible ICM mistakes in your games. And the more it's about survival, the more if you are playing just to win, the more of a mistake you are doing. And pretty much you can see in here, we are playing double or nothing games. And I can go here like, I like to play against this player. I like to play against this player. And there is going to be the next player. I like to play this player as well. And this is a $22 sit and go. Like, this is softer than $3.5 sit and goes on PokerStars. So it's going to be, I think that these games are going to be really okay, because I think in total I have played something like 200 games on 888 poker now, and I have marked 2 regs on the tables that I want to avoid, and pretty much all the other players are that I want to play against this player, I want to play against this player, and it's going to be good. And when our opponent shoves, and he looks like he's pretty much in his senses, it's going to be small pocket pairs so often that pair of jacks becomes an insta-call. And if he has anything else than a small to medium pocket pair, he's misplaying it. And if we see anything else, it's going to be noteworthy in the bottom left. And Marcus Y is saying that you finished in position 11 in the $15.45 men, sitting out 2 orbits. And that's something that's just going to be stupid. So you pretty much never wanna be sitting out. I'm moving some of these tables to the other screen, so I'll always get a four tables here. If we get some of these opponents to bet, we are going to be check raise the hell out of them. And now we are going to bet for value ourselves. When we are having 2 pairs and a flush draw, and there are 2 passive opponents, we are pretty much going to be ahead of their range, and we are going to get decent value out of them. And would you shove 8s? I wouldn't be shoving 8s. That's pretty much... I think that you are going to get better value even with 8s if you are having them in your min raise range. And 8s is going to be included in my definition of middle pocket pairs, so it's not horrible, but I don't feel that it's going to be optimal when you are having something like 16 big blinds. And it also makes opponents pretty easy to play perfectly against you. And when your opponents are playing perfectly against you, that's pretty much always a crappy situation for you. You want to make your opponents as hard as possible to play against you. And on the top left, I think this is something that's a definition of an easy fold. Like, as long as there is this any ace guy, we are not going to be calling with third stack against second stack. We are going to wait for this anyways to be away. And when any ace is going to going to be min raising there. We are all only, or he's going to be shoving there. We are going to be only calling to also have an opportunity for this Gam guy to come there behind us and making it even harder for the NUAs to survive. And when we didn't win it, it gives us a bit of a crappy situation. And this would have been a min raise. I think optimal would be to min raise the deuces when we are having the shortest stack. It's slightly interesting against Katrina still. I'm thinking to min raise because this King 9 is still going to be solid, and when I'm min raising it makes it harder for the opponent to see that I'm having a short stack and I'm almost all in. So I think that I'm going to get more fold equity by min raising it compared to shoving it. And in here, it's important to see when you are in the bubble, and this is something that it's going to be interesting because this big blind and under the gun, they are going to be battling it out. So they are going to be either, if he folds, he's going to get into a horrible situation. And when anyway shoves and we are having a solid stack, we are not going to be calling it. We want to get this Katrina out. So with a middle pair, but with a really small middle pair, we are going to be... I'm going to be c-betting because I think that there is going to be so many horrible turns and rivers, and I wanna get the pot there and now before the pot gets big. And I hope that this Gam is going to be shoving against this Katrina and getting her out. That would be something I prefer right now. And this is an example on when you are about playing the situation. You always need to play the situation. In this situation, we are counting on our opponents to eliminate each other, so we are playing pretty much on the future value side. So we are just looking when the opponents are going to get eliminated. And we are getting pretty nice games going on. And it's interesting to see, I have played a few games during the Finnish coachings, and these double or nothings, especially the higher ones, they have been good games to play. So I think that I'm probably going to include these in my 888 poker grinds to get my amount of tables a bit higher. And this chat has now turned to be a discussion not only about poker, but also on different language Dutchies. So there are now people are learning new things. I pretty much know that when a tight player calls me there, I'm going to be screwed more often than not. And I think, as you can see, that my approach in these games is going to be a bit more aggressive in certain spots and also more passive in certain spots. So I think that there are a lot of decent spots to increase your stack size without having too high of a risk. But also I think that in certain spots, like in the bubble, people are just playing badly. And when people are playing badly, it's always an opportunity for you to increase your ROI in the games. And I need to be sure that we are not going to have more than 2 hours of this session. And why is that? Because the YouTube video edit doesn't work on videos that are more than 2 hours long. So we are going to aim for something pretty close to 1.5 hours. And in case you have any questions about playing poker professionally, sit and goes, anything, please use our chat to ask. And there has been really anything goes. And you are having 2 parliaments, the Dutch and French parliament, and that's something I didn't know. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me to have 2 parliaments in one country, but actually when I'm thinking about it, we are doing the same in Finland with the Åland, because they are having their own Swedish-speaking parliament. And Snodikin82, without joking, we can play the final of the World Cup. Yeah, I think that's a possibility, because I think that you are having a really nice team. And in these double or nothing super turbos, people are folding so much on the BB from small blind raises that it's pretty profitable to raise pretty much any 2 in this kind of situation. Especially when there are so big antes in play as well. And that's something I think that some of the players here are missing value. That some of these players aren't playing aggressive enough in the stealing part when people aren't playing back enough. And the games are just getting more purple. And from the World Cup, I must say that 888 is having a really great promo for the World Cup. If you are depositing in the 888 poker before 27th of June, you can get up to 100% bonus with no playthrough requirement. And how the bonus works is that you are practically guessing which country will win the World Cup. That you are getting 10% of the bonus you are getting instantly on your account when you deposit. And you are getting 30%, so it's up to $15. If the country you guessed is getting to the finals, and if the country you guessed wins the World Cup, you are getting the final 60%, so you can get up to 100% bonus with no playthrough if you are guessing the right country to win in the World Cups. And also there is going to be, you are having a chance to free roll your way to a coaching session. If you don't have an account on 888 Poker, if you are creating an account through us and you are depositing before 15th of June, before next Sunday, you can get to Aarnimetsa's exclusive free roll, which pays out $10, and also it pays out a coaching session for the winner. And the winner can choose between 3 of our coaches. One of the coaches is Julos Pro with a lot of heads-up experience. There is going to be Kyberi with Pot Limit Omaha, and there is going to be me for MTTs and sit and goes. And there is going to be another free roll 2 weeks from that, so the Sundays are going to be filled with Aarnimetsa free rolls for coaching. So please join 888 Poker through us, and if you are already having an account, please tell your friends. It helps. It helps us so that we can provide you free sessions in English as well in the future, if our English members are also joining 888 through us. And if you are watching this video right now and you like the video, please press the like button, the thumbs up button under the video. It helps us a lot in getting our material up for others to view. So if you like this broadcast, please press like. It helps us a lot and it doesn't take a lot of your time. The more viewers we have, the more English content will be produced by us. So you'll help yourself as well if you like this content by pressing the like. We are having the inside information that Belgium will win the World Cup, so. And I must say, like, I'm probably the most consistent the NHL, what it's called, predictor. I'm always wrong. And I did utilize the deposit bonus and I didn't use Belgium, so Belgium has a good chance in winning the World Cup. And in here it's going to be interesting playing the bubble, because there are 3 big stacks and 2 really short stacks. And I think that we are going to try to get the short stack out of this game. It doesn't even matter that much what kind of range he has or what kind of hand he has. It's going to be really unlikely for him to be winning a 4-way pot, and even if he doesn't, there is going to be this guy that's going to be all in pretty much the next hand. So, and as we have already said, it doesn't matter how many chips you win the game by. It only matters that you cash. So cashing only matters. Nothing else matters. It's like a Metallica song. Nothing else matters except cashing. And Marcus, why? Yeah, they are having a really good chance, and then I mentioned them in a live broadcast, so. I think that thus far I have made about 12 predictions about NHL and I have been right once. So I think it's going to be that if I'm predicting something, it's probably going to be horribly wrong. And now I'm also thinking that it might be that because I don't understand anything about football, I might be even right because it's going to be only a guess. In here with top pair, top kicker, with a lot of draws against passive player, we are going to be printing money by playing really aggressive, and we get a call from a mid pair, and that's going to be great for us. And this Judekatorul on my table, and he's pretty good, I think, and I think not. I don't think that any good player, or actually this isn't the player. Interesting. I thought that he's going to have the stats of this horrible player on top of him, so... Oh well. Luckily I didn't utilize the stats against him when those would have been the wrong stats. And if there is going to be a good player, I don't care because I think that we haven't seen too many of those, and when we aren't seeing too many good players, it's going to be really good for our equity in the games. Like you can see in these games, we are averaging at least 2 horrible players per table. And when we are averaging 2 horrible players per table and pretty much no good regs on the tables, I think the ROIs that you can make in these are going to be pretty good. This Pico guy, I think King Queen suited is going to be a bit too good hand to not call there, because this under the gun opener is going to be so short. Of course, if this under the gun opener is not going to be shoving enough, this is going to be a pretty horrible call for me. So I'll need to mark this hand and let's check it later on. I think if we are thinking only about Nash ranges, it's going to be a Nash call, but we can't only think about Nash ranges if our opponents aren't going to be playing well. It's important for you to know what the Nash ranges are, so you'll know pretty much what a good player would play in the situation, or how to play against regs in a way that they can't abuse you. But you shouldn't be just playing Nash, and I think playing Nash is something that people are doing mistakes, because even though you can't be exploited, you are losing a lot of value, because even though you can't be exploited, you are also not exploiting yourself. And I'd actually think that we are pretty much having the final games going on right now. I'm having 7 tables running and they are pretty much at equal situations, so we should have a interesting going on through the end. So we'll play these tables through that I'm having open. And after that we are going to look at the few hands that we have on these players, and then we'll see what have we learned today. And we are having also another table with this Judekato rule, so we might, but I don't promise you anything. But I think this Goldnick guy is a reg, but I can't think that he's going to be a good reg because I think he's playing way too tight in the early game and also in the later stages. I don't think that he's exploiting the opponent's weaknesses in these games well enough. And there's going to be a very limpy random guy, and I think that these very limpy random guys are also going to fold a lot if you are shoving yourself. So, and now he got ace jack, and if he's pretty much limping his whole range, it's going to include a lot of folds as well. So it's a pretty much what can you do situation. I think that we are going to have also fold equity against the guy. If we know that this person would be a reg, like if he would have been the Goldnick guy in here, I would have shoved pretty much no matter what I have. Because a reg is going to know that there is going to be a player that's going to be all in pretty soon. But against a random, I don't like to risk a lot, so against a random player that's going to probably do too loose of a call, it's going to be better to not take stupid risks. Actually, that's like always a good idea, that don't take stupid risks, and it's something that sounds really self-evident, but sometimes people forget it. And then it becomes stupid is as stupid does, like Forrest Gump says. And with ace king suited, we are going to be raise calling pretty much against any other player, and when it's fives, it doesn't matter. We are flipping and losing. And Vaku is having a huge, gigantic 11 euro hamburger, so he could only manage to just push the like button. That must be so hard to do any movement after a really big hamburger. And this Neme Morozov is going to be closer to what I think is going to be optimal by playing a lot of hands, but there are just some things that I don't like that much, like shoving 17 to 18 big blinds deep. It's something that's going to be really hard to balance, and it's also going to be that it's not optimal in many situations. And these games are going to be the final games in this session. So these are going to be the final 4 games. And if there are any questions from you, please ask them. Especially when the amount of tables gets a bit lower, it makes it a bit easier to discuss about something that happens. And in here we are having 6 players per table. It's slightly interesting to have ace-7 here. If it's unopened, it's going to be an easy shove, but it's going to be interesting if there is going to be other players taking part in the pot. And there are 2 things that you'll notice, that there's going to be a lot more and a lot fishier players on 888 poker than on many other sites, so the tables are pretty much good pretty much good at all times, so but they are going to take some adjusting, and that's because there are going to be players like this Paul RFC that's probably going to play a lot of hands and them aggressively, and there are some players that are going to play a lot of hands passively that you need to be value betting a lot when you hit. So you need to adjust for the players, and also how you think that, how often do you think that the players by some stupid play are going to be eliminating themselves, and that's going to be really important in these double or nothings. And actually this is a surprise table for me. I thought that I'm not registered to any tables anymore, but I was registered to a surprise table. I always should check my tournaments to know what are the games that I'm sitting in. I'm going to be min raising here because it gives me the option if there is going to be 2 players behind me going all in, then I can still fold. And also when I'm min raising, I think that I'm going to get more folds than if I'm going to be shoving there. So min raising is way better equity game, especially in these double or nothing bubbles when you are having a lot to win by just barely making the money. It's going to be something you should be aiming for. And Snodikin82 is having a question that can you play online poker with one group of people in one room? I think the correct answer is it depends. You can play some games in pretty much every site. That there are some games that you can play, but you shouldn't be playing at the same table as your mates. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to be playing at the same table than your friends, because it opens you up to a lot of risk for the poker site, thinking that you are abusing some of their, and you are colluding with your friends. And when there is this fish limping and folding to a 2 big blind raise, that's something that the guy should never ever do. And this is something that also makes me mark him. This is again a mark for a player that I want to be playing against, even though this time when he folded, it made my equity go down compared to if he would have called and we would pretty often start the bubble the next hand. So Snodikin, I think that if you are playing different games, you can play out of one room, but I wouldn't recommend playing the same games. And you can play some MTTs if there are like 2,000 players, it's going to be really rarely that you are getting the same table. And even then, if you are getting the same table, you need to really be taking care that you aren't doing anything that would even look like colluding. Usually the poker room software is going to not have you at the same table if you are playing from the same IP address. And we got lucky on the top right with ace deuce. So that's something that's always good. It's a $22 game, so it's good to be lucky in the bigger games as well. Because we are so far away from the money, and this guy has been really aggressive. Sevens becomes a call after this guy only raised or shoved his stack in. So sevens, we are having decent equity against both of these guys, and we are so far from the money that we just pretty much need to take some risks to have a stack that we can make the money with. And if you are started a Belgian poker team and you want to play once a week in our club, I think if you are playing the if you are playing the home games on Poker Stars, you can play online from the same room and same IP address. I'm not completely sure that have we tried it, but I remember that it would be okay. But that's pretty much the only place that I would play at the same time. And I'm not completely sure that can you even play according to the terms of service, that can you even play the home games online from the same. At least if you are playing play money home games, then you can play for sure. And if you are settling it outside with real money, because poker is usually only fun when you are playing with real money. But there have been some interesting moves in the games, and there's the one Mad Cat is sitting out, and what's the stack size? It's going to be smaller than mine, and it affects me quite a lot. And the next blind level is going to be in 3 seconds, so it's also good that we are in the big blind, and it's bad that this Nememorozov won the pot. So not good at all. We pretty much need to fold because we are having no fold equity and we are having a really bad hand there. And in this bottom left we need to fold because Katrina is going to be all in from the blinds, so we are just going to be folding. And even this Paul RFC is going to be all in with just blinds, so it's going to be important for us to not do anything stupid. And this Starry's Knight, he might be trying to get all the chips, but it just doesn't make any sense when the structure is that it doesn't matter how many chips you get, you are always getting the same money. So, and in here this Mad Cat won, so it makes that we are the second shortest stack and we need to be taking more risks right now. And in here, did you see this one? This Happy Kiesa min raise call with Jack 5 suited in this $22 turbo, so it's a player that I want to play against more, and I want to play against her a lot more. So, and we split the pot, so, and we are still the shortest stack, so we are taking more risks. And when Goldnick calls, we pretty much know that we are screwed. And now we just want to have a tie or a win for us, and it's going to be pretty hard. But if we are not taking risk when we are having 350 chips and all the other players there's only one player with 200 chips and the other players are having 600 to 700 chips, we are not getting in the money often enough, so it's a horrible situation to be in. But in here, if you are looking because it was an interesting hand. And I can't look it. So we'll see that the Happy Chiesa min raises, I re-raise, and he calls with Jack 5 suited and hits a flush. Of course it doesn't matter what he hits. It only matters how he plays pre-flop, and that's pretty huge mistake ICM wise to be playing Jack 5 suited and be raise calling it. I don't think that even opening Jack 5 suited is going to be profitable, even if we would be really king of nits so far away. Like, there are 4 players left to act and he's min raising with Jack 5 suited. It's going to be backfiring. Especially when he's not going to be folding his hand. So that's something that's something that shows you that there is going to be value in these games. Today we played how many games? 26 games. 9, 11, 14 in the money, so we got in the money in over half of the games, and I think in buy-ins we would have won half a buy-in, but in real money we lost some because we didn't get in the money that often in the 22s and 43s. I think it's pretty much just variance that, for example, in the 43s we didn't win a single flip against our opponents. It usually doesn't help to make a good set for you, but we are going to now check some of the marked hands that we had for today. And now it's still a good spot to be asking questions for today. I have only one marked hand here, and it's going to be one marked hand against Katrina, and it's an easy hand to check with Hold'em Resources calculator. So here we are thinking about if our opponent next to never folds, that is going to be calling something like 85%. Is it going to be profitable for us to be shoving 9-4 suited? I think it's going to be, but I still folded. But I thought that after a while it's not going to be profitable. And double or nothing, 8-man double or nothing is going to be a satellite structure with 4 equal prices. So we'll see how it goes. And Snodikin, when you have started your poker team, please tell your poker friends about Pokerimania as well. Because the more people we have as members, it also matters. So join our forum. You get to participate in the next coaching sessions live, and also the more members we have, the better deals and offers we can get for our members. So the more members we have, it's important for us. And also, if you like our videos, please press the like button, because it helps us a lot by getting the material out for more people, and the more people our material reaches, the more material we can create. In this situation, 9 deuce suited would be a shove in here. Actually, pretty much every suited hand, if the opponent would be calling 62%. I think in practice I'm thinking that opponent is probably, I think this Katrina was one of the more one of the better regs, I think, stats wise. So I think that she's probably taking a bit more risk there than a general player, because she should know that I'm going to have a pretty wide range. And if she's going to be calling even 70%, it's going to be horrible for us. And we can actually look for a plot, a range versus hand equities, and we want to look at our hands, and we want to be the Katrina's hand to be the deciding factor. So 9-4 suited, something like 7-5 suited, Jack deuce suited. And let's also have something like 7 deuce, 7-6 off, and 10-8 off. So there are some connected hands that we want to know that how much our opponent needs to call before the hands get minus EV. And we can see that 10-8 off, the opponent would need to call over 80% of the time, so it would be always a mistake to be folding 10-8 off. And it's also pretty close with 7-6 off and 9-4 suited. And 7-5 suited, it also needs to be over 70%. So I think like 7-6 off, 7-5 suited, 10-8 off, they're all going to be horrible folds. And we can always look at, for example, if Katrina calls 70%, what does our range look? Actually, it's now on. And best response, if Katrina raises 78%, would be me raising 65% range. And we can see here, like, if Katrina is raising, if he's calling less than 56% of the time, it would be a mistake for me to fold anything. And this is also important, because against a random in this situation, a random, even though he's going to have only 4 big blinds left, random is never going to be calling more than 55% of the time. So the general randoms are going to be so tight that in this situation it makes sense to raise any 2 against the player you think is going to be a random player. I think our chat is broke before, because I haven't heard anything in the chat thus far. So it's pretty much when we haven't gotten any more questions. So that makes the situation that we can end this broadcast. And if you want to see some sit and go content on, you want to concentrate on some structure that we haven't yet played in my coaching sessions, please send a message to my feedback thread. I'm having a project to make coaching sessions for pretty much all the different structures of sit and goes. So it's going to be pretty likely that your wish will be commanded, because there is probably something like, at least some of the main sit and go structures, there is at least 30 to 40 structures that we haven't yet played. So please suggest more structures. We are going to prioritize 888 poker sit and go structures somewhat, because it makes more sense for us to broadcast content from our partner sites. Perhaps some of you will be enticed to play there as well when you see that the games are really good. But it's time to end this broadcast. I hope that thank you everyone that has been chatting here with us today, especially Snodikin. It's always nice to have active chat there. Even though it might get a bit off topic sometimes, it doesn't matter. It's always better to have chat going on. And I'll have to say that if you are going to sleep already and need to work tomorrow early, have a good night. And if you are still playing some poker, may this be the winningest night of them all. Good luck!